Mr. Turner.
Secretary Hagel, General Dempsey, thank you for being here. I greatly appreciate your dedication, and we really appreciate this dialogue today. I want to start by thanking both of you for your dedication on the issue of sexual assault in the military. General Dempsey, you have had exemplary dedication to this issue, and we appreciate your voice as we've looked to both try to change the culture in the military and look at the rules and regulations that need change. Secretary Hagel, thank you for your position on addressing Article 60 after we had the incident of General Franklin overturning a conviction of sexual assault. My co-chair of the Sexual Assault Prevention Caucus, Nikki Zongas, and myself recently received a presentation from the Air Force, and we appreciate their dedication on this issue. We look forward to working with you on the language for that because there are a number of considerations which I know you referenced in your letter. We have some additional issues that we think that should be addressed. So my co-chair, Nikki Zongas, and I will be working with both of you on that as we proceed to the NDAA. On sequestration, I wanted to relate that General Wolfenbarger, the commander of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, related her concern that so many times in our discussion of the effects of sequestration, we miss the personal effects that this is having on the workforce, both our men and women in uniform and our civilian workforce. In my community, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, 13,000 people are facing furloughs, which those are people who get up every day to protect our national security. So I want you to please pass on that members of Congress are very concerned about the personal effects of people who have kids in college, vacations that are going to be postponed, other expenses, and real-life hardships that this is going to result in. I have a question for Secretary Hagel and a question for General Dempsey. My first to Secretary Hagel is about our ability to maintain responding to two conflicts, and my question to General Dempsey will be about missile defense and our ability to do look, shoot, look as we look to Iran. Secretary Hagel, Secretary Panetta, just as he was about ready to leave, was at the 2012 Munich Security Conference and made this statement: "We will ensure that we can quickly confront and defeat aggression from any adversary, anytime, any place. It is essential that we have the capability to deal with more than one adversary at a time, and I believe we have shaped a force that will give us that capability." We have coming up in NATO a joint training exercise that's currently scheduled in Poland. That's obviously very important to members of Congress because we know how sensitive our relationship is with Poland as the administration has walked away from its commitments to missile defense. So we're going to be watching and certainly hoping that this has the full support of the Department of Defense, that this joint exercise in NATO and Poland take place. But my concern is obviously our ability, as we look at sequestration and defense cuts, to give our allies the assurance that we can do two conflicts with the tilt to the Pacific. NATO is obviously nervous, and I would like, Mr. Secretary, your comments on that. And then General Dempsey, General Kaler has said of his concern of our ability to do look, shoot, look. I think we're well behind the ball as we look to North Korea and the missile defense presence that we should have there. As we look to the rise of Iran, this committee has placed in the last NDAA language for an East Coast site that would augment our missiles in Alaska and give us that shoot, look, shoot. I'd like your thoughts, General Dempsey, on the, we look at Commander Jacoby, and he said, an East Coast site would give us that increased battle space. On your thoughts on the shoot, look, shoot doctrine and opportunity. Secretary Hagel.
Thank you, Congressman. On NATO and those exercises and our complete full support of our continued alliance and relationships, absolutely. We are committed and will stay committed to those exercises, to our allies, to the entire framework, the objective, the purpose of NATO. I don't know if you're aware, but last 4 years I've been chairman of the Atlantic Council. And I have given many speeches on this specific issue all over the country, all over the world. The critical relationship that we have with NATO. I don't believe there certainly not a collective security arrangement in the world like it, and hasn't been, but it's bigger than just a security arrangement. It is the one anchor that secures interests based on human rights based on the same values of each of the 28 members. And that's a pretty significant starting point. And it can't fix every problem, and it shouldn't be expected to. But to maintain and to build and strengthen that alliance is absolutely critical to our interest, and it will certainly be reflected and is reflected in current and forward relationships. On your comment about walking away from the relationship with the Poland missile defense issue, let me just comment on that. We talked to the Poles and our NATO allies about the decisions we made on the ground-based initiative. And I think you know, and we're continuing to stay committed, they know this, the President said this, to that relationship on the European phased adaptive approach. 1 through 3, we're looking at 4 for a lot of reasons. There's some of that phase 4 that we think is too expensive and probably doesn't do the job. We're looking at that. The Poles are in compliance with that, with us. They agree. We're not taking anything out of there. We're continuing to fulfill the commitments in Poland with the Poles as well as to NATO. So I just wanted to give you my take on that, Congressman.
If you have anything further on that, if you could take it for the record,
we can provide for the record your responses on the East Coast site, because as you know, that's obviously, since you've taken out phase 4, which was the only portion that would protect the
gentleman's
homeland,
time has expired.
that could be important.
Mr. Larson.